Do you remember when Kamala Harris back in the day proposed going after price gouging, and Republicans had to performatively act like that was insane? That would be the worst thing that she could possibly do. Well, here's a reminder.
Kamalanomics is worse than Bidenomics. The plan apparently involves a Soviet-style price control to stop inflation.
The other thing she says is she wants to lower cost by enacting the first ever federal ban on corporate price gouging for food and groceries. So I guess she just threw that one in because that's one of her answers for inflation.
Well, that's a dumb policy anyway.
Is there anything more scary to the entrepreneurs and the business community than the government controlling your prices?
Kamala is reportedly proposing communist price control. She wants price controls. And if they worked, I'd go along with it too, but they don't work. They actually have the exact opposite impact and effect.
Well, I guess to his limited credit, he at least implied there that if he thought they would work, that he would go for it. He seemed to not necessarily be on board with the fear mongering that the right was doing, but he said it was communist. Obviously, he's not a fan, except that now he very much is, because he announced this, some possible price controls coming in the near future, saying, I have asked the DOJ to immediately begin an investigation into the capital M meatpacking companies. Why does he capitalize these things? Who are driving up the price of beef through illicit collusion, price fixing, and price manipulation. We will always protect our American ranchers. And they are being blamed for what is being done by majority foreign-owned meat packers who artificially inflate prices and jeopardize the security of our nation's food supply. Action must be taken to protect consumers, combat monopolies, blah, 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 blah. Thank you for your attention to this matter. I would have left that part out, but his argument there, like if you forget about the specifics of why the price of beef is going up and how there's actually quite a bit of context that's important here. The argument he's making is you have these big monopolies, so they're artificially driving up prices that doesn't actually have to do with supply and demand. But that's what Harris was saying. That's what Harris was saying. That's what people like Bernie Sanders and AOC say. And all of them pretend that that would never happen. Like in the pandemic and everything, none of these companies would ever raise prices more than supply chain issues actually necessitate, right? They would never actually do that, except that they are. And I've said for a long time, one of the reasons I hate this tariff scheme so much is it provides yet another, what seems like exogenous shock to the system that can be used by profit-seeking companies to once again raise prices more than they actually need to make up for the tariffs being paid. So he's pretending not to see any of that. And just in this one issue, now I can acknowledge that price fixing might actually be a thing, and we're gonna look into it. So let's now check in with how Fox News is reacting to Donald Trump getting on board with some price controls.
So there is an issue here. And I think the bottom line is what people want is to be able to buy beef from a place that they know, by the way, locally. And a lot of times the regulations around beef packing hurt small farmers.
The president has a point. There are 4 meat packers that dominate 85% of the beef market.
I just want to take this opportunity to thank the president of the United States for doing the right thing. Farmers and ranchers have been in his corner all the way through.
So they like it now. They're actually on board. I wonder why. I wonder if it's a context thing. I wonder if it's a learning thing, or if I wonder it's just a loyalty to the president thing. Yaz, what do you think?
Do the farmers and ranchers love Donald Trump? Because they seem to have a very contentious and unstable relationship with him, especially lately, especially considering all those billions of dollars that we just gave to the Argentinian government. And we can get a lot of beef from places like Argentina and Brazil. But going back to the earlier Fox News segments, they had things like Kamalanomics, which mispronounces Kamala's name, or I think how did Kamalanomics? I don't know how she said it. But
she did mispronounce it. Yeah,
Kamalanomics, yeah, something like that. Yeah. And then also Fox News trying to sell a federal ban on corporate price gouging as a bad thing to the American people is the most audacious thing I might have seen in a very long time, and that is saying something, because the only reason, I shouldn't say the only reason, but one of the big reasons, and this is what people have said, this is what the polling reflects, the big reason why so many Americans voted for Donald Trump in 2024 is because he told them that eggs are too expensive and I will bring the price of eggs down. And it was believed at the time that there was a lot of corporate price gouging, that these prices were being artificially inflated by various companies, by various corporations. And, the Republican Party, they have kind of a tricky situation that they have put themselves in, right? They are the party of big business. They have to be for business because they are definitely not socialist, right? They love capitalism. They love laissez-faire economics. They love how things just flow and it just works out without any kind of government regulation. That is what they're trying to sell to the American people. But as the actual American people have seen for themselves, whenever they go to the gas station or whenever they go to the grocery store and they can't afford the things that they were used to buying, the thing that the American people understand is that the prices have not come down despite what this administration actively tries to convince them of. The administration says, oh no, prices are down, but then people go to their grocery stores and they don't see that. They see that prices are still up and they're still increasing. So this country is so big. So I think a lot of people who still support the administration just figure it's probably down elsewhere and maybe one day it'll come down in my area or in my neighborhood. But the truth is nothing this administration is doing is actually going to help to bring those prices down in a realistic way. And as we saw with the midterms last week or the week before? I can't even keep up anymore.
2 weeks ago, yeah.
2 weeks ago. So as we saw with election night, whenever the Democrats won sweepingly across the entire country, one of the big things was affordability. And Trump even said, the Democrats love to talk about affordability, even though they lie about it. He said that. And he said that the Republicans need to start talking about affordability more because that is a thing that is going to hurt them if they don't. And at the same time, like a couple of days later, he was like, I don't even want to talk about affordability. Don't even talk to me about affordability. No, thank you. Yeah. But the truth is they're going to have to figure out a way to balance these things. Can you be for the big corporations and for big business? And can you also make things more affordable for the American people? And with this particular administration, there doesn't seem to be any willingness to compromise, no room for any kind of balance there. It's all about the big corporations. Let them make the most money that they possibly can. And the people will just have to figure that out, despite everything else that we're throwing at them, things like cutting food stamps, things like all this job insecurity, they will just have to figure that out. Also 50-year mortgages, there's no consideration for the American people, but now they just have to speak as if they are considering the American people, even though they haven't functionally done anything different.
Yeah, well, we're going to turn to the polls on that in just a sec. In closing, I just want to mention, so in that video clip, they said that the ranchers are totally on board with this. Well, some in the end might be, perhaps, but one, Meriwether Farms, which was a pro-Trump farm, sent a tweet at Secretary of Agriculture Rollins saying, now that President Trump has formally requested an investigation into the meatpacking companies who are committing price fixing and price manipulation, does this mean you're going to fire the former Tyson Foods executive you hired who oversees every packing plant in the country, asking on behalf of every producer and consumer in the country? So they seem to be seeing through Donald Trump's statements, or even what could end up being an investigation, and saying, well, if you actually mean this, why are you bringing people into your administration that are in charge of doing this, or should be the ones who are actually stopping it from happening? So we'll see in regards to that. I will say, well, Donald Trump, it's kind of like flailing. That's why he's ending up in positions that seem so directly contrary to anything he said he would do in the past. It is potentially opening the door for future administrations to look into things like price fixing in other industries. Or, Donald Trump is taking direct control over some portions of private companies. That's a thing that, a Democratic president now could do in the future. And so it's a bit slapdash and random when Trump is doing it, but a president AOC or something like that in the future might be able to use it in a more productive fashion.